Hello and thanks for visiting Movienize. I'm going to discuss the movie Soldier Boy, which is based on the true account of the youngest combatant in World War II. Beware of spoilers. The film opens in Russia, where a family of 3 is relaxing by a river. Sergey Aleshkov, the youngest of the group, brags to his mother and older brother about being on top of a tree when suddenly German fighter planes pass overhead. The mother tells her children to quickly hide in the bushes, but the 6-year-old swears he is not afraid and shoots a slingshot at the jet. To everyone's shock, he succeeds in hitting the jets and destroy them. But as he turns to look, his family is gone. Fearful from the dream, Sergey wakes up and calls for his mother. Someone suddenly knocks on his door. He hurries in its direction, thinking it's his mother, but an anxious neighbor enters. She tells him that his mother and sibling are dead and gives gratitude to God for keeping him alive. The young child, who finds it difficult to understand what she is saying, wants to wait for his mother inside the house. He is informed by the woman to flee since the Germans had attacked them. A group of soldiers suddenly approaches their home. Sergey is forced to leave through the window by the woman, but she is shot dead before she can follow him. The young 6-year-old is now living alone and is without friends or family. Sergey sees his entire neighborhood burning behind him as he escapes the house. He makes unsuccessful attempts to reach his mother before leaving the area. He eventually finds himself in the midst of the woods after a while of running. The young child, who is lost, asks his mother to come and pick up him. He spends that night in the wilderness. The next morning, as the opposing soldiers approach him, we see him consuming water from a river. Sergey hastily hides within a tree's roots after realizing they are deadly. When a snake approaches, he is terrified but doesn't scream or flee. The troops terrify Sergey more than the snake does. After the soldiers finish their meal by the river and leave, Sergey takes their leftovers and eats them all night long. However, the young lad is worn out at the end of the day. He hasn't eaten properly in 2 days and has been wandering aimlessly. He stumbles while walking but doesn't stop. He eats some wild cherries he sees along the path after seeing them, but just then, he is caught off guard by an explosion that happens behind him. The boy has vertigo and begins to see someone behind him. He informs the person he has a weapon and is not afraid even in these desperate situations. He moves forward with a limp but eventually passes out. 2 soldiers approach him while he sleeps. The action is cut to Commander Kuznetsov waiting for his patrol soldiers at the Russian army camp. The young child, who is weak and unwell, is brought in by them. The youngster opens up and identifies himself when the soldiers say they are on his side. When the kid shakes hands with the commander, the troops laugh and urge that he identify himself as well. The soldiers surround the young boy in a circle as they show him affection. They make him drink water and feed him. Even the commander, who is usually chilly, looks after the child. Sergey's wounds are attended to by Katya, a nurse who also finds Sergey to be lovable. The kid, who aspires to be a military when he grows up, begs her to draw a tank on his wounds. Even the wounded warriors talk with the kid and get better. The commander's gun and his badge are fascinating to Sergey. The commander also responds to the young boy's inquiries and gives him a chance to play with his honorary gun after removing the bullets. Sergey displays the tank that is drawn on his tummy and extols his military prowess. The kid is recovering rapidly. The commander refuses the nurse Katya's request to allow Sergey to remain with the unit, arguing that it won't be safe. Instead, he wants to place Sergey in an orphanage. Sergey occupied all of the soldiers' free time. Throughout the day, many people stop over to see him. They also let him use their binoculars while bringing him food that was provided to them from afar by their families. A soldier asks the commander to permit the kid to remain with the regiment one day. The troops form a strong bond with the child and view him as one of their own. The burden of the conflict is lifted by his presence. To ensure the boy's protection, the commander is determined about transferring him to the orphanage. The next day, the enemy attacks, inflicting great casualties on the men. Sergey is picked up by a vehicle and driven to the orphanage. The commander tells the child the news and presents him with an honorary wooden pistol. In response, the child hugs the commander and says he's worried for his safety. In his hug, the commander melts and alters his mind. Sergey is asked to stay with the troops as his son. The soldiers search for infantry uniforms for the kid that evening. They are delighted that Sergey will be staying with them. Sergey is woken up by the commander, who also hands him the clothing. He moves about with them on, appearing to be a real soldier. They begin calling to him as their little soldier boy. While the child runs around, the Germans attack the battalion from the air. The troops fight the others while swiftly carrying Sergey to safety. The number of soldiers hurt is growing. Sergey provides water to thirsty soldiers out of a desire to be useful. One of them, who has a bandage covering his eyes, requests him to read a letter from his family. Despite not being able to read, the little kid wants to help. He grabs the letter and begins creating the contents, saying the soldier's cow is at home in safety. The others advise the soldier to accept the story and laugh when he claims he doesn't own a cow. He reads everyone else's letters in a similar way to lift their spirits. In the following scene, we see Katya and the commander talking. Although they do not express their feelings, the two appear to be attracted to one another. Later, Sergey informs the commander that he belongs to the battalion's orderly position and begins addressing himself as one. The kid then witnesses one of the soldiers' stations being destroyed by the assault. He learns from the commander to remove his hat in honor of the dead soldier. He insists that the commander give him a work the following day, and is given the assignment to distribute the letters to the soldiers. He does his job well, even getting the soldiers to dance for him. The next day, Sergey uses his binoculars to explore a little bit outside of the base. He observes a leg moving from a haystack while he is playing with it. He quickly returns to the base and briefs the men on his findings. Even though they are skeptical, the troops accompany the boy. 2 German spies are discovered hidden underneath when they get close to the haystack, alerting the group. The kid is praised for his intelligence after the spies are captured. The following evening, the commander presents Sergey with the adoption paperwork. He is now officially the kid's father. Sergey takes the commander to confess to Katya because he is aware of the commander's emotions for her. The two, however, mistakenly believe she is interested in someone else after seeing her speaking to a different man. The Germans launch another attack on the base. This time, Sergey does his best to aid the troops by giving the soldiers on the front line ammunition, but they order him to return to the shed since it is too dangerous outside. He reaches the hut and finds the commander and others in a panic since the phone's connection to the colonel has been lost. To fix the damaged lines, a soldier is sent. As Sergey follows the soldier, he observes that he has sustained severe injuries. He asks the dying soldier for advice on how to fix the cables and carries it out on his own. More troops are called after the connection reestablishes. Everyone's lives were saved by the 6-year-old. The commander and Katya are later seen talking by the river. Finally, the commander tells her how much he loves her and asks her to be Sergey's mother. Before Katya has a chance to say anything, a soldier approaches them and hands the commander a letter informing him that they have been dispatched from the base. The next day, Sergey and every soldier depart for their new base. However, they encounter a minefield along the road, which causes some of their vehicles to be destroyed. The group's orderly, with whom Sergey had a close relationship, dies in the explosion while the commander is injured. He cries while hugging the commander. They travel to their new base while carrying the injured people along with them. When they eventually make up to the top floor, they run across the commander's leader, the general. He praises the captain for having such a bright kid and expresses his own admiration for the child's ambition. Their division receives a guard's banner the following day, and the boy also receives one. When the general hands him his badge, he makes a commitment to save his nation. Their base is brutally attacked one night, and the commander is trapped beneath the rubble. Sergey cries for his father and tries to save him. The commander is ultimately brought out after he calls the other soldiers. The following morning, Sergey approaches a wounded commander. While attempting to help the commander, his hands got wounded. The boy is now an indispensable member of the group. He travels everywhere they go in the fight because he has no family around. The unit is seen relocating to a different base as the film comes to a close. He even traveled to Poland with the soldiers and took part in the Battle of Stalingrad, according to a voice in the background. He is today recognized as the youngest soldier in history, and the legendary story of his courage is being told to the entire world.